Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
one quick. It's not really a question. It's you've had the opportunity to coach internationally with a few tournaments, and what are the? I know that you've spoken in previous podcasts that I've heard. Can you compare? Obviously, the shot clock is one thing about high school basketball, but the FIBA rules is a lot different with the college NCAA rules. What are your likes and dislikes, if there is any, of FIBA basketball? And what would you see as a happy medium to use those rules as a universal rules so it can be played in all parts of the world? And obviously, the United States is one of the only parts that doesn't use the FIBA rules. But what did you like, don't like, and what rules would you like for it just to all merge together as one also?
It's a great question, and it's a simple question. A simple answer is I would love all the FIBA rules. I really do. I mean, I think the 3-point line and the wider lane is great. I think the timeouts, in my opinion, are great because here in my team, my high school team, I can call a timeout anytime I want. And even the kids on the floor can call a timeout. So if a kid gets in trouble, he calls a timeout and it saves them, which, it might be good in certain situations, but I think that the strategy gets kind of taken away there. If you have a great defensive possession and you put somebody in a bad spot and now the coach or the kid can save them with a timeout, I don't like it. Obviously the shot clock, I would love to see college go to 24 seconds as well. I would like it to be as universal as possible. And again, since I've been coaching with, USA basketball, I know both. I've been coaching both. And my opinion is simply that the FIBA rules in general are just better. And I think it's a shame because in theory we have the best players in the world, but yet we play a different game sometimes. And our kids are growing up in a game where, we literally have coaches that'll stand and hold the ball in the corner for 2 minutes at a time in the middle of a game just to slow it down. And that's not basketball. That's not how it's meant to be played. And I think a lot of people are just afraid, again, of change. And once you experience the change, I think it makes sense. And our guys, it's definitely, because even when we bring our kids in, and again, I'm with the U16, U17 team, so this is the kids, for the most part, their first exposure to FIBA or international rules. And so we do have to take time, and we do have to take, whether it's some classroom time or just as we're playing, to remind these guys of what the rules are, the over and back and not being able to throw in the backcourt. Just some simple things like that. The timeout one seems to be the toughest one, to just remember that as a coach, you can't call a timeout. You got to go to the scorer's table and call the timeout. We'll always kind of reiterate, because we do have the athletes typically with the USA team, is the goaltending stuff. Because in the States, you can't goaltend really at all. So there are some slight variances, but if it was up to me and you're asking my honest opinion, I would go totally to the FIBA stuff, the international stuff, and kind of put everybody on the same playing field around the world. It's funny too, because you talk about podcasts. We had Zydrunas Ilgauskas on one of our podcasts a couple of years ago, and Zydrunas basically said when he came to the States, and he actually helped out one of the local high school teams, and he's sitting there in the first game, and he said he looked around like, what he said, what the hell is going on? There's no shot clock, and one team is standing there like holding the ball, and they're running their offense for 45 seconds around the perimeter. He said this isn't basketball, and that's an interesting perspective from somebody that's not from the United States, that kind of sees what our kids kind of grow up with.
Yeah, you asked that question, Edwin, and I was trying to think of a rule that I like better in college basketball here than the FIBA game, and I can't really think of one, to be honest with you. I hate how college basketball is played here in the States. High school I like, just because I think there's enough creativity amongst the coaching and the levels that if you dig into it enough, there's variety there. But the FIBA game is just so much more appealing to watch than college basketball in the States, that I'm not sure that there is a rule that I like better in college.
Yeah, there's one thing that I like to add on. So you guys have this knowledge, is that we start with those shot clocks at early ages here. It's the 24, the 8 seconds, and then the 14, which is the offensive rebound. It might modify based on age level, a little bit younger kids, to maybe a 30-second shot clock. But it does help a lot in terms of reaction time and thinking. And obviously, with all the coaches that we have here, strategy is very important about the timeouts. Because one thing that at the beginning I didn't like, but towards the end I started understanding it. If you did not use, you have 3 timeouts in the second half of the game. If you don't use that first timeout, which is 3, they'll take 1 away from you, and then you're left with 2 at the last 2 minutes of the game. So it's strategy. I have a lot of here. I have my coaches in the university, also Frankie coaches in the university. There's other guys that here coach university, and sometimes we use that timeout at the 3-minute mark in the fourth quarter as a form of strategy. And then obviously you have the other 2 in the last 2 minutes. So that was one of the points that I wanted to talk with the coaches. When you talk about your strategy, also your philosophy, it's all based on the rules that you're playing with, based on the state. I also heard recently that, and I'm kind of sad to hear that the state of Ohio doesn't allow you guys to play in any high school tournaments with a shot clock.
Right.
That was kind of, that's kind of mind blowing, knowing that kids are, for those that are going to make that jump to the next level, they have to get used to it somehow, some way or somehow. So thanks for answering the question that way. And hopefully before you retire, which you probably have about 20, 25 years left, if you keep on eating the way you do over there, well, you'll probably see that.
I hope so. I hope I get a chance to coach it at the high school level, just because I feel like it's the way the game should be played. And to your point, the strategy that's involved, a lot of coaches here in the States think that kids are going to end up just taking a lot of forced heaved shots at the end of the shot clock, and that's why I don't like it, when in reality that's not the case, right? I mean, you got to teach them to react, you got to teach them to play quicker, you got to teach a little bit more strategy. And I think it forces us as coaches to teach all of our players a higher skill set. And I think one of the things that we always talk about in USA basketball is how other countries are catching up, not just athletically, but the reason they stay with us in certain competitions is because their strategy is just better, right? Their kids are all very skilled. They might shoot the ball better, where we have these great athletes and maybe they don't shoot the ball extremely well or do some of the things that other countries are capable of doing. And I really believe that a lot of that reason is because of the shot clock, is because kids in other countries are growing up at all positions, learning how to do different things. That where here in the States, if you're a big guy, you might be sitting on the block for 20 seconds, 30 seconds at a time, and your offense is just running around you. And there's no real need for you to force up or take a shot in those situations. So I really believe the shot clock does have a big part in skill development, especially for younger kids. And I love the fact that you shared that you actually started even at a younger age, which I think is great.
Yeah, and the only thing, there's a glimmer of hope in that USA Basketball did release sort of youth level guidelines for how they think the game should be played. Was that 2 years ago, I want to say?
Yeah.
Which includes a shot clock, I think, as young as maybe 3rd or 4th grade, a gradual introduction of the 3-point line, certain size balls, certain size hoops that, I think was put out there to sort of set a benchmark that wasn't going to get adopted right away, but hopefully over time will continue to gain popularity. And I mean, we have seen states do a shot clock, and I don't think, I think the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive for where it's happened. So eventually, if there's enough support from the right people, I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
We had one question about rebounding from Coach Carlos Martinez, maybe just real quick, and then Coach Flannery, you can wrap it up with a word of advice. The exact question, I just lost it, was sort of what you've learned, or the most important thing maybe you've learned over your coaching career. So let's do that. Rebounding in our game in general, as sort of spread and three-point shooting and those sorts of things, especially at the highest levels. If you look at the NBA, if you look at Division I college, a lot of coaches do not emphasize rebounding, specifically offensive rebounding, because they think the risk or the reward does not equal the risk of, giving up quick, easy points in transition. So you've seen, if you look at a sort of a trend line over time, offensive rebounding is way down, lower than it's ever been. We feel a little differently than that, just because when you do get an offensive rebound, it is very valuable. And at our level, you tend to have more misses too. So, and we think we're probably good enough that we can still play good enough defense while being aggressive, going after rebounds. But I'll let you touch on that, Eric, and then if you want to get into lessons learned, and we can wrap it up there.
Yeah, I just think on the rebounding thing, a lot of it's mental, a lot of it's an attitude, and it's something that we kind of pound into our guys about just effort and positioning. Back in the day when I first started coaching, it's, kind of getting the butt and your elbows up and backing into a guy and being on your feet, where today we kind of teach the hit and go get type method, where we're teaching guys to kind of put their foot into somebody's chest, make contact with somebody, and then go get the ball. And I think that's worked pretty well, where kids now, it kind of gets our guys to be a lot more aggressive. Now, obviously, if you're right around the rim, you gotta continue to work on put into somebody, get on their thigh, kind of back them up. But we've become a little bit more proactive with teaching guys to be more aggressive, just ball hunting, going to get it, value the basketball, and then just teaching techniques offensively. We do drills. We probably do, a drill every other day where it's related to rebounding. The war drill is one of our most favorite drills, where you have 5-on-5 and you designate a guy. The offense is on the 3-point line and the defense is in the key, and they're all designated a guy that they need to box out. And if offense gets a rebound, they get a point. If defense gets the rebound, they got to, transition into offense. And the only way you can basically score is by getting offensive rebounds. And then what we do is we might designate one of the offensive players as what we call the Rambo, is the guy that if he gets an offensive rebound, they get 5 points, and you can win the competition that way. So there's more of a focus, and you'll see what happens when you designate a guy like that is, one, he becomes way more aggressive on the offensive end because he knows his rebounds valuable, and two, the defense really focuses on him. So it kind of puts you in a mindset, if you're going up against somebody, an opponent that has a really good rebounder, your guys know how to kind of neutralize that one player. So that's one of our favorite drills, and we do a lot of competitive, where if we just keep track of offensive rebounds or defensive rebounds in different segments in practice when we're going up and down, I think serves very similar benefits as well. And once again, going back to analytics, what Tim had mentioned, when we continue to emphasize the importance of extra possessions on offense and how important it is to rebound the basketball, I think, again, it does come to a mentality type thing where the kids really start buying into how important it is to get a rebound. So I hope that answers your question. How do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, I think
Anytime.
It's a good place to wrap up as sort of coaching lessons over your 100-year career that you've had now. But I think there's some sort of fundamental lessons or philosophies that you've learned that you can share with the group. I think the question was, what specifically, are you better at now than you were maybe when you started? But I think that can get into, maybe some of your favorite lessons.
Yeah, I mean, I always hate, I really do. I hate the philosophy type question, because I think that changes constantly. I think, I always believe philosophy is just who you are. And that kind of, people talk about culture, and we're now with USA Basketball, we're talking about our ecosystem rather than our culture, because everybody just wants to change the word and, change what it is. But the reality is it comes back to who you are as a coach, and what your standards are, and what you think is important, and how you teach that and relate that to your players, and to the people around your program. One of the things I heard another coach say this, and I think it was something that was really important and kind of hit me, is like, I now know what I don't know. I'm very aware of the things that I'm not good at. I'm very understanding of the things that I need to continue to improve on. There's certain things that I just know that I'm not good at. And I think that's what I've learned over my 30 years now coaching is, that's why you have good assistants. That's why you learn to delegate, and why I've learned to delegate as I've gone on in my career, is to kind of cover my deficiencies and to make sure that I'm giving enough time to the kids that I think is important and necessary. There's no one philosophy that stands out. We believe in standards now, which is kind of for the last 15 years. I've used standards in our program, which we developed from USA Basketball way back then, and now it's kind of the big thing with a lot of programs. But our standards, we just kind of list through our kids. It's when Edwin played for me, he'll remember with Coach Zimmerman, who was the guy before me, and there was a lot of rules, and the rules were like, you look me in the eye if I'm your coach. If you're late for practice, you're not going to start if you're a starter, or you're going to run sprints, or there's a consequence for every rule. I got away from that a long time ago, and that's where standards come in. We hold ourselves as coaches, and we hold the kids to a certain standard, and the standard is you show up on time, right? You show up on time and you're on time. So what's the consequence? Well, here's what I always tell people. I come from a school, and Edwin can attest, where we have kids that can walk to school. We have kids that get a ride to school in their mom's or dad's nice car. We have kids that take a bus to school. We have kids that travel and take 3 or 4 different forms of transportation. We have kids that have a beaten down car that they have to rely on to get to school. So we have kids from all different backgrounds, and I don't know how I can have the same rule for every kid. So if a kid walks into my practice and he's 5 minutes late, since we know what our standards are, I know that there's a good reason why this kid showed up late for practice. So I'm not going to stop practice and yell and scream at the kid, or tell him to go get on the line. I'm going to wait till practice is over and pull him over and say, like, hey, what happened, or what's going on? And if I don't like the explanation, then maybe there's some consequences for that. If he's a repeat offender, then we start getting into some consequences and some things that we really got to take care of. But our standards are pretty much things like, play with pride, play with enthusiasm, great communication, make sure you're constantly talking. One of the rules, and one of the things I always use with the kids too about communication, I always tell them there's 2 things that we can assume as coaches if you're not talking. And the kids, whenever I ask them, they know now what the answer is. And the first answer is, 1, I'm too tired because I can't talk because I'm too tired. And the other answer is, I don't know what I'm doing. So I, as a coach, can assume 2 things when you're not talking. I assume that you're either too tired or that you don't know what you're doing. So you don't know what to say. So that means I can take you out of the game because you're not talking. And I think once you send messages like that, like the kids, you don't have to yell and scream at them. You can just say, like, hey, I pulled you out because you weren't talking. So you're obviously too tired, or you obviously don't know what you're doing, because that's our standard. So you're not going to play right now. And I think when you send messages like that to your players, it's pretty good. And I've learned so many of those little things throughout the years of coaching, and going back to USA Basketball, and Coach Showalter, and I've just been fortunate that I get to work with every year with some of the best coaches around the country, and it's not always the same coaches. So I get to get different philosophies and different versions of reading a ball screen, or defending a ball screen, or just philosophical things that other coaches may use. So I've just been very fortunate with that, and I just try to put them into what it is that I do as a coach. So is that good, Edwin? Are we good? Do we have any final questions or anything?
The topics that the coaches gave out in questions that you just answered, it's worth the money in gold. What a lot of coaches, especially the younger group of coaches, likes the X and O's aspect, and I imagine that's something that's being asked, and maybe we can do another one of just X's and O's. But I just think this meeting that we just had, it was great to get another area on coaching, because I think you said it very well. When you're hiring people on your staff, it's not about X's and O's. It's about being a people person, and how those people can impact your program. And that's something that I'm trying to do in our programs also. So you can be the great X's and O's coach, but if you don't know how to speak with the players and the players understand what you want to do, it's very tough. One of the things I would like to tell the coaches in Puerto Rico, maybe Coach Flannery, I know that wouldn't want to hear this, but Coach Flannery also has instructional videos through Championship Productions. He has the European ball movement. I have that one. That's the one I used against my good brother Frankie Roman about 4 years ago, and we beat him in the third place game. I had to do that, Flan, because he always whips my butt and during the season. So I beat him one time for a medal. And you spoke about the 1-1-3, the matchup zone. That's also, you can find it in Championship Productions. I still remember that zone. You played that zone a lot back in high school, and it brought a lot of problems to teams, because you really don't know if it's a man or it's a zone. It's very good. So and all that. I just want to make sure the coaches know that you guys can get that. Also, don't worry, I'm not getting any commission on those. So, so I just think, as we go on, we have to keep on learning different things. And Flan and Tim, I know that you're gonna have some closing remarks, but it's been a privilege and an honor that you've taken your time to talk with the coaches that we have here in Puerto Rico. It's not every day that we can bring a coach from the U.S. To talk to us and give us the insight that you just gave us. Basically, you gave us more than what we asked for in terms of the questions. So I hope that we can repeat this maybe in the long run and organize something different, and maybe we can add some other coaches from USA Basketball or any area coaches to be involved. So I don't know if any coach has any questions. Hay una pregunta que desean hacer hacia el entrenador para poder cerrar el conversatorio. Si alguien tiene una pregunta, por favor de anotarlo un momentito. Okay. I don't know, Tim, if anybody put anything on the chat so far. I think
somebody asked about the matchup zone, but that's like a whole nother
yeah.
And we can, and again, Edwin, let me just say this as a final thing. First of all, thank you. Tim will say the same thing. Thanks for having us. It means a lot that you reach out and ask. It says a lot about you as coaches, any coach that's on here, that you're just spending some time listening to another coach. I felt like in my time in my career right now, I get the most pleasure out of just listening to other coaches and learning new things still, and passing along things that I've learned throughout my career. And I think it's just what we do as coaches. Coaches, coaching is stealing, and we're all stealing different ideas from each other and trying to figure out. And sometimes what I've learned in my career too is sometimes I just need affirmation about what I'm doing. So, I might be a coach that coaches for you at Team USA, but you might already be doing the same things that we're doing. And to hear somebody else do the same things just gives you a little bit more confidence, I think, as a coach, to go back to your teams. And when you're doing it, like, hey, I know I'm doing it right. I know what we're doing is what everybody else is doing. And I think once you get over that as a coach, especially a young coach, and you have confidence to just teach what you know, you become a better coach right away. And just sitting here being able to share some of this information. And I would love later on, you know, you have Tim's email, you have my email, you know, share some thoughts. And if you have questions and you have a personal question like, hey, I just want to, you know, a clarification on something, we'll definitely, you know, help, and we'll definitely respond as quick as we can, because that's what this is all about. And you know, maybe one of these times that when I come on here and listen to you guys talk, and you can show me all the great things that you guys are doing, because you know, we can all learn from each other, and I think it's great stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much. That would be great.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. I appreciate it. Be safe, everybody. Stay healthy, and hopefully we'll get together again soon.
And Edwin, we'll, I have a recording that I'll get you a link to, and if you want to share it with the group or whomever.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Great seeing you, man.
I love seeing you guys. Take care. Be safe.
Tell the family I said hello.
Please, will do.
Thanks for having us, guys.